Türkiye Sermaye Piyasası.
We continue Turkish Capital Markets Congress. The theme of this panel is sustainability and insurance. I would like to leave the floor to our honored guest, Atilla Benli, Chairman of Insurance Association of Turkey. The floor is yours, sir. Distinguished guests, I would like to welcome each and every one of you to the 5th Capital Markets Congress. Your existence and contribution here is of critical importance. It's the proof that you are attaching great importance to the sustainability, and you do have good intention efforts in that regard. And it's giving us power in our path to the sustainability. And we hope that this process is going to bring about effective results. Distinguished guests, as you all know, global public is discussing global warming and climate change. It's a hot topic. In G20 leaders summit in Rome and in Glasgow, United Nations Climate Summit, it was uttered repeatedly that this matter is vital and the countries were invited to take action. In our country, within the scope of climate change and global warming, important steps have been taken. We approved Paris Climate Agreement, and this has been the most positive step since then. And on the other hand, the visions of 2053, as a result of the green development stated by Recep Tayyip Erdogan, we are going to be together in fighting against climate change and global warming. Insurance sector is managing the risks of the individuals and corporations and compensating them. On the other hand, they are presenting financing resources for the capital markets. Insurance sector plays an important role, and if we take them into consideration, we can comfortably say that managing what will come out of global warming and climate change, one of the most critical sectors is insurance sector. In this scope, our sector has already started to act to fulfill what falls on its shoulder. We are sharing our info in transparent manner and with social, environmental, and corporate governance outlook. They're exerting great efforts in that regard, catching the roadmaps, preparing the roadmaps for sustainability, and the working groups and the departments, not only in insurance sector, these workshops are going to come up with innovative solutions, not only for the insurance sector, but also for the other financial sectors as well. While we are doing so, European insurance sector, they are planning and aligning their investments to have zero emission by 2050, and it's only possible to stay far from the portfolio with emissions, and zero emission, zero carbon, and financing is supported by the companies. Us as Turkish insurance sector, we are actively participating in the struggle against global warming and climate change, and we are going to fulfill our obligations in this path. Distinguished guests, natural disasters are the most visible results of the climate change. it doesn't matter where you are, whether you are developing or underdeveloped. We have seen many natural disasters like the flood, like the earthquake, and as insurance companies, we always supported our citizens in July and August in the flood and fire. The total is around 510 million TL. Our Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate, the fires and the floods, the infrastructural harms, and the restructuring cost is going to be around 2.5 billion TL. And this number, job losses of farms, and if we add other losses, this cost is going to be even higher. And we can clearly understand from this figure that climate change, sustainability, it is a great threat against the welfare of the people. But of course, we do have our instruments in our hands. The insurance sector, these losses might be covered by the insurance sector. And as the sector, we are going to be doing that to cover, and we do have the capacity to do so. And for sustainable life, we need to increase the getting insured ratio. I would like to give you some info. In developed countries, the harms by the natural disasters, 45% of them are covered by the insurance companies, but in developing countries, the very same ratio is around 3%. In the days to come, the harms that are possible to be resulted as a natural disaster is going to increase. We need to work harder to make up for this gap. Digital transformation is another pillar of sustainability. We are increasing the pace of our companies with digital transformation, and this matter is important to us. Along with the pandemic, the speed and the effect have doubled, and it is very significant for getting ready for the future. And also our sector can take its responsibility and contribute hugely to the society in environmental matters. We do have 5-year strategic plan in terms of digitalization and data analytics. These titles are very important, and within this scope, there is an important study conducted in the digitalization area. As the insurance union, income authority, income, expenditure policies have been prepared, and these companies won't need to print them on paper. They're all going to be in online platforms like eState. They will have the possibility to see their policies online. In a very short period of time, we're going to be implementing it, and we are planning to complete it by the end of 2022. Thanks to that, by transforming those papers into e-documents, we are going to be making a decrease and saving, 40 million TL, protecting our environment and decreasing the climate change effects. This is an inspiring initiative, and I hope that our area of effect is going to increase. And electronic communication devices and digital approval can be used now in wider areas, and this is an important contribution. Through eState, some operations have been centralized, and private pension fund transaction fees are expected to decrease. And as a result of such efforts and similar efforts, our companies can provide service for our customers in a faster and cheaper manner. our companies are having successful digital transformation, like the robotic approaches or the damage determination, etc. Distinguished guests, the subtitles of this panel is going to be under the age of 18 private pension fund. Our participants are going to be giving you detailed information, but let me touch upon them very briefly. One of the most important contribution of the sector is the receivable insurance. Those financial insurance instruments are giving our companies huge opportunities. The balance sheets of the companies are constituted of their passives, their assets, liabilities, and liability management has become even more important. And along with the pandemic, state-supported receivable insurances have been taken into consideration, and they might be called as the life insurance of the companies, and it is underlining the importance of the receivable insurance, liability insurance, and also guarantee insurance is becoming more, becoming wider. And the advantages of this insurance have become more important in the pandemic period as the awareness level increases, the usage, the number of users will increase as well, and this is going to contribute hugely to the economy. In private pension fund, minors, I mean, they under the age of 18, you know, they can participate in the private pension fund. As you all know, PPF, it is the prerequisite of savings, and this is to increase the domestic savings ratio, and then it's going to provide a financing resource for the economy. For this reason, private pension fund, with the advantages it offers to the participants, it is encouraging the international saving accounts. Saving habit is going to be given to the children, to the minors, and this is an innovative approach. And this private pension fund under the age of 18 is something that we attach great importance as a sector. Within 5 months of time, 107,000 participants joined the system under the age of 18, 123 million TL fund and 15 million TL states subsidy, and 1 million TL target is going to be reached very easily in the upcoming year. In our country, 24 million minors, they will be having the advantage of making use of the state's participation as well, and it's going to be the locomotive engine of this growth. Since 2013, states' participation is like the insurance of the private pension fund. In many places of the world, the state is not giving such an amount of participation. Private pension fund is no risk and investable, and people think so. Along with the automatic participation system, total number of participants is equal to 14.5 million, and the fund size is above 200 billion. As of now, 207 billion, and the citizens have trust in the system. This is the indication of that, and these are very good developments for our sector, and the continuation of the participation and the initiative of the state is very important, and this is going to be important for the protection of the welfare of today's youth, tomorrow's old. For the struggle against climate change, it is urgent to take precautions. The sea levels are going to increase, it's expected, and we are going to be affected by that because we are a peninsula, and our country might encounter many risks. For this reason, in terms of global warming and sustainability, us as individuals and corporate companies, we need to take effective precautions, and we need to have the will to support states' incentives as well. Us as the insurance companies, the risks born out of the global warming, we need to be managing them, and we are going to continue to work with all the shareholders. I would like to thank to the organizers, especially the Capital Markets Union, and I would like to thank Brand Yıldız. And we can now go forward with the session. I hope that this panel is going to be fruitful for all the participants.
Sayın Atilla Benli'ye yaptığı bu değerli katkı için çok teşekkür ederiz.
I'd like to thank Attila Benli for his great contribution to our panel, and I welcome all of you. We will have 3 panels to discuss insurance and the private pension systems within the framework sustainability. I have distinguished guests with me. For example, Özgür Obalı, the General Secretary of Insurance Association of Turkey, Aksa Sigorta CEO Yavuz Ölken, and CEO of Anadolu Hayat Emeklilik Yılmaz Ertürk. And we'll try to discuss all the topics emphasized by Mr. Attila. And with your permission, I'd like to start with Mr. Ertürk. Well, we've been quite busy with the pandemic for the last 2 years, but before the pandemic, climate change was a hot topic, and it still is. And as we followed the COP26 in Glasgow, and as its echoes and repercussions still continue, they have established a net zero alliance, and AXA is a leading company, and you are also present in that alliance. So what is the latest in terms of insurance and climate change? Well, Iran, thank you so much. It is quite a pleasure to be here in such a distinguished Congress. Of course, insurance is quite an important sector, and the role is huge within economic development. Climate change is discussed. It is a hot topic, and you just mentioned an alliance, which is correct. That happened. Why? Because we need a lot of identification. But what are we going to identify? Well, if you were to list all the fundamental risks threatening human beings, well, first place goes to climate change. Well, AXA has been preparing future risks report together with global institutions. The first 10 years, for the first 10 list items, I can tell you that climate change is always #1. So this is approved. And one of the reasons of climate change is all the human-made disasters, and also carbon emissions, greenhouse emissions, which affect biodiversity and global diversity, which shall be taken under control. This is again a common agreement. And looking at insurance sector, well, we went for a cooperation, and zero emission targets are different in different countries. But after signing Paris Convention, we are trying to align it to 2053. But in this convention, the ultimate goal is to make sure that institutions and companies will go for zero emission. So what does that say? We consume energy and carbon is released, but you have to measure it. You have to follow and track what all the wasted water goes through and all the food waste. Now we have to measure the impact, and you will whether zero it, you will make investments to stop it, or you will invest in forests so that you can support forests, or you will invest in renewables, just so you can reach zero emissions But there is an understanding that this should not be limited to that, because looking at insurance companies, it is obvious that individuals alone cannot make it happen. So that's why we needed an alliance. Because carbon emission triggering production companies, or be it energy, or be it a company in any sector, well, it is announced that financing conditions won't be as easy as it was before. So this is like a sanction. And all the companies that support sustainability and green transformation, then they will be opted. And that is what is discussed. And this is already being implemented starting from Europe. All the facilities that use fossil fuels will see high insurance costs, or they will not be insured, or they will face severe liabilities. So looking at all the recent developments, this is actually quite critical, and this is a leading move, I believe. And let's also identify one thing. Our sector is insurance, our group is AXA, both in Turkey and in global. What lies in the center is protection. Of course, we want to protect what is precious, but there are also uncertainties. And one of our assignments is to create sustainable assets. And in that regard, we have to create awareness. This is one of the most fundamental duties. We have to ensure financial sustainability. Yes, your reserves, your instruments, your services, they shall all be sustainable, but it should not be limited to that. Looking at our geography, all the environmental, social, and ecological challenges shall be recognized, and we have to come up with related activities to tackle with them. And some of the revenue should go for awareness, and we are determined to do that. We are ready for this. So from global to local, I believe there is a triggering move going on, and it's not just that. For a long time, both as AXA Turkey and as other stakeholders in insurance business, we try our very best to create an awareness with our products and services. And I believe that in the future, decisive actions will make sure that we fulfill our responsibilities. So in order to avoid disruptive outcomes, we have to think outside the box, because insurance alone is not enough to protect what is precious. And if you want to leave our next generations a better world, then we need to take not only individual, but also collective steps. Well, Mr. Yavuz, thank you so much. So what are your recent activities in Turkey as AXA Sigorta? Well, together with our group, in order to create sustainable value, well, we are fully focused on creating awareness. Since 2019, we've been working heavily on this subject. And in the past, we had many TV shows, and we hosted many activities, and we continue to host many activities to bring awareness to global issues. And the feedback was quite great. And in 2019, we came up with a concept that is globally friendly insurance. And this is something that we were already working on. We wanted to have green offices. We wanted to be meticulous with zero emissions and renewable energies. And of course, business partners support us a lot in this endeavor. But that world-friendly insurance was actually supported with 2 steps, so that we could take a more confident look towards the future. And we got a position that we could support agencies better. Approximately 100 agencies they now have world-friendly logos. And when it comes to zero emissions or low energy consumption, we started a certification system that honors and incentivizes our agencies. And I am so happy for this initiative. I'm sure the number of agencies fitting to that initiative will increase. And it's not just limited to AXA Sigorta. And I mean, it's not important that AXA Sigorta started this initiative. I know that it'll be embraced globally. So we have to share best practices. I believe that there is no competition in best practices. And Act for the World was another series of events that we initiated last year. We wanted to create awareness on health issues. Of course, the pandemic made it more obvious, and we realized that we have to act more, we have to be active more. So moving and being active means driving your car less. And on one side, you get healthier and you contribute to lower the emissions. So these are all complementing one another. And also we came up with a digital application called AXA Fit. So all application using members can track their own carbon emissions, and they can see what the consequences are for any action. So we'll continue to create awareness. Of course, we will focus our investments on renewable energies, and we'll continue to focus on our agencies and our employees too, so that we can elevate their level of awareness. We will remain quite active on this issue, and we are so happy to be a leading name in these initiatives. But I know that this sector is huge, so all stakeholders should implement best practices. Okay, Mr. Yavuz, thank you so much. And let's continue with you, Mr. Yilmaz. Anadolu Hayat Emeklilik just recently announced carbon neutral ambitions. So in 2020, I suppose you zeroed your carbon emissions, but what are your recent activities? Can you tell us more about this? Well, yes, of course. As you all know, social, environmental, and governance practices gaining importance with each passing day, and this is a global thing now, and it has been quite popular recently than ever before. So companies try to contribute more to ESG endeavors, and they want to create awareness more on this issue. And also, well, we're still experiencing a COVID pandemic, and this pandemic showed us how important these issues are. And as Anadolu Hayat Emeklilik, since our establishment, we have always tried to support social development. We always try to come up with activities, products, and services so that we can leave a better planet for future generations. We've taken many steps in this regard, and sustainability has always been in the focus of our corporate activities. And if I were to sum up our activities, well, since 2016, we are carbon neutral. We brought greenhouse emissions to zero. And of course, we had a series of investments in green, and we're maintaining our position. And our offices have green building concepts. So starting from electricity use to treating wastewater, we have taken a series of measures. And in 2020, looking at our activities, you can see that we joined the Sustainability Index in Borsa Istanbul, and we have 78 sustainability. We have been quite successful in this regard. And for the first time, we issued our sustainability reports. As you know, there are many initiatives and platforms, but we issued our report for the first time. And in order to put us more emphasis in the subject, such initiatives actually create a pressure on us, which is quite positive. And we also went for creating a fund. This fund would focus on ethical values, confidence, employment, environmental issues. And these funds actually represent all the companies which are in alignment with our priorities. And in this regard, in order to support private pensioners, we had the opportunity to offer them something quite new. And sustainability shares and pension funds have 3 funds, and their current value is $34 million, and number of people who support it is above 30.
Giderek artacağını tahmin ediyoruz. Dolayısıyla bir taraftan karbon nötr.
On one hand, carbon neutral company, one sustainability being in the sustainability index of Istanbul Stock Exchange, and on the other hand, private pension funds in this field. Us as environmental, social, and governance, we're trying to make contribution to that, especially the stock example is very important. That was going to be my question, but you answered it before me. Özgür Bey, Turkish Insurance Union, what do you think about the global warming? Thank you very much. I would like to say hi to everyone. Thank you very much. This has been a very fruitful session. I would like to look at the matter from more macro perspective. I would like to start my words with sustainability. We need to categorize sustainability into 2 categories: environmental and global warming. When we say environmental, global warming, climate changes, and the natural disasters born out of them are most prioritized matter, as stated by the general managers, by Yavuz Bey, increasing the awareness level. And as sector umbrella company, we do have 4 aims. 4 fundamental aims: increasing product penetration and making the products be known more. Especially this climate change has become a global crisis. Despite the fact that this has been on our agenda for long years, the pandemic and our becoming signatory party in Paris Climate Agreement, this matter has become even more important. When we look at the losses created by the natural disasters, to what extent are they insured? In the world, it's around 45%, but in the developing countries, it's around 3%. Let's say in Turkey, it's around 5%, but this is not enough. So our first priority is to increase the number of assets to be insured, the commodities. So we do have indirect effect in that regard on the environmental side, and our direct effect is going to be the sustainability of the financial situation. And this is the pseudonym of insurance. When you look at the insurance is the most important element serving for the sustainability of the life. Therefore, there are a couple of components of that: sustainability of the financial life, sustainability of the commercial life, and sustainability of the human life, to some extent, health insurances, private pension fund, investment to the future, etc., sustainability of the life standards, So everything about sustainability touches upon insurance. Turkey Insurance Union in Turkey, what kind of initiatives do we have? The most critical decision that we have taken as a sector is to have faster response, to foster our muscles in that regard. And the critical part is the preventing role of the insurer. When we look at the examples from Europe, we can say that academia and the private sector's cooperation is very substantial. Therefore, they do have data. As insurance sector, we are processing data. 80, 100 years climate statistics, demographic statistics, when we combine them with the academic studies in the days to come, we are going to increase the awareness level, and we would like to increase this level even more. Thank you very much. You said financial sustainability. Countries and individuals, the private pension fund for minors, it has been 5 months. Could you elaborate on that as well? Because more than 100,000 participants are there right now, and our kids, since the age of 0, they can participate in private pension funds and also state's contribution as well. As in the previous speech, total contribution levels 10 to 15%, is the state's contribution. And within 5 months of time, the number of participants is more than 100,000. We need to look at the matter from financial point of view, behavioral financial dimension of that, because many parents who don't have private pension fund right now, they started to have private pension fund for their kids, minor kids, while preparing this product, while making market research, we noticed that. And the most important financial effect of it for the futures of the kids, the process that was started by the parents will continue by them. This de facto beginning date was 18 years, but we took it back to age 0, because private pension means, with small savings, you are having big savings, within time. And the earliest you start, the more capital you will have, and it will have very positive effects on that regard. And we proved that in many researches. So this is an important touch. On the other hand, we are also informing our kids in terms of climate and global warming. Important knowledge has been put into curriculum. We see that in our homes, they are more sensitive to the environment, in terms of savings, protection of the environment. Turkey has a tendency to save the energy, like the electricity, energy, etc. And 45% of awareness level increase has been seen, and Turkey is within the first 3 countries in the world. And this is thanks to our kids, Minor population is huge in Turkey. 24 million youngsters we do have in Turkey, and they're having financial literacy. And this is a good opportunity for us. Every kid which has such a product will know the value of saving, and they will be motivated. Therefore, their financial literacy is going to be 3-4 times as us. Yılmaz Bey, I would like to continue with you. Anadolu Hayat pension, 1/3 of the participants is minors. You always emphasize the importance of the participation of the minors to the system. What would you like to say about it? Thank you, Bülent Bey. Atilla Bey and Özgür Bey touched upon this matter. Let me give you a macro perspective first. As stated by Atilla Bey, in the private pension fund, total number of participants is well above 14 million. And the number is around 12 million if we omit the automatic participation. In the private pension fund, we can say that the number is not enough. Minor and having them within the system is an awesome practice by including the population within the system. The fact that the private pension fund is growing very fast and the funds are increasing, and this is going to contribute hugely to the main problems of our country, which is lack of savings. And they will have they will have sounder steps towards future. In İşbank and in our country, minors are very important for us. And within the scope for minors, for private pension fund, we started our preparations very early. And as of June, when the legislation let us, we started selling the product. And when we compare ourselves with our competitors, our market share is high on the basis of the number and the funds. While doing so, we preferred offering additional benefits to them as well. If one of the parents die or becomes crippled, till the 10th year, we will cover for them. And apart from that, we offered free ambulance service. They can have special discounts from Anadolu Sigorta products and İşbank publications, they do have discounts. And when we combine them all, as you stated, our market share has increased, and this field is going to contribute hugely to the growth of our private pension fund. This might be about education, marriage, health, and the parents are sensitive to that, and they want their kids to be ready for such events, and they do have a great appetite in that regard. Let me share with you some statistics. The number of participants is more than 100,000. Between the ages of 0 to 7, it's the 53 of the total. So there's a preference to add the youngsters between the age of 0 to 7 to the system, and newborns, 7,000. And the highest participation amount is around 16 age. The statistics are satisfactory. I hope that this system is going to grow very fast, and we will witness that all together. Thank you very much, Yılmaz Bey. This has been enlightening. Yavuz Bey, what do you think about that? Did it meet your expectations, these numbers? Thank you very much, Yılmaz Bey. As I stated earlier, in the life insurance and the private pension plan, of course, there is a competition, but best practices, inspire us. Let me tell you very frankly, the message is that we are competing in order to make this sector sustainable. That's why we follow the best practices. And we can say that Anadolu Hayat Emeklilik level is very important. And secondly, this sector's expectation for 2022 is 1 million, and I think it will be surpassed. And thirdly, there's something that I don't expect, is that in the newborn and small age group participation by the parents, it's not going to be encouraged fast. And I didn't expect something else. they don't make any investment in themselves, the parents, but they are making investments for their kids. So our approach was wait and see, but these messages are quite positive. And we need to embrace these messages and we need to take them to the next level. But there's something I would like to underline is that, you know, the number is around 130,000 minors. They're within this system right now, and the parents investing in them, they're giving us the following message. Behind every step taken, there's sustainability. The parents do have trust in the private system of Turkey. They find it sustainable. As a result, they make investment in that system. So when we add them up, our main theme is sustainability, but at each point of life, like the parents, like the manager, youth, doesn't matter, but sustainability story is everywhere. Therefore, I can tell you that I'm very happy in that regard, especially on the life insurance. The steps and all the efforts are more understandable, and it has become an important locomotive of the economy. That's making me happy. Thank you very much. You mentioned about best practices. Digitalization is another pillar of sustainability. In terms of digitalization, could you mention a little bit about them?
Well, yes, digitalization is quite important, but let me remind you one fact as I try to wrap up my remarks. No matter what, we are insurance people, and it's all about people. Digitalization is both for the distributors and for our customers and for the human beings. I mean, we have to center the digitalization to a point where it benefits human beings. Digitalization shall support sustainability, shall support efficiency of the corporate, and thus support us in our financial endeavors. And it shall also help us to neutralize emissions and everything. It shall support protecting the environment and everything. So I believe that digitalization is crucial in this respect. And let me share some examples with you. Well, we all manage our professions through data. And when we can correctly analyze the big data, and when we can have future projections based on big data, then we can make the most out of our products and services, because then we would know that we are pricing correctly, we are determining the risks correctly. If we can fully benefit the IoT, then you will realize that mobile life can be merged with insurance products and health comes first. Well, the pandemic showed us how important health is, because we paid the ultimate sacrifice, and digital and health could go hand in hand, because we learned how to move and we saw what the positive and negative consequences of each of our move brings. So we have to benefit from the digital, and new products and services will emerge, I believe. So if you can simplify your life, if you can touch the lives of your customers, your agencies, if you can increase the efficiency of corporate activities, and as a result, if you can make your financial power sustainable, and if you can bring a positive contribution to the environment, and if you can make it sustainable, well, then yes, as soon as possible, we have to make the necessary digitalization investments. In 2018, we introduced Insurance 4.0 initiative, and this is quite a comprehensive initiative to make future sustainable, so that we can benefit our customers, our agencies, so that we can be more efficient. And of course, we shall not limit ourselves to this. We need to take further steps, and I believe that digitalization is going to be the main pillars of our daily lives. And we have taken significant steps in this regard, especially e-transformation is something that we have to accelerate, because looking at the legislation and all the laws, they have to be parallel to digital developments. And I'm sure that digital transformation will be a great leverage to insurance business in the future. Thank you. And so, Mr. Özgür, I want to ask you a question concerning financial insurances. Financial insurances has become quite popular recently, but in terms of shares, what sort of a determining role can they play? Can you tell us more about this? Well, sure. Looking at the exchanges and the shares and investing in them and becoming a shareholder is quite a significant, requires a significant literacy, because you see and reach out to the different capitals. And before arriving in this panel, well, I just checked this one subject. There are similar questions like, okay, I'm investing in shares, but what if something happens to that company? Is there anything to protect me against any possible damages or losses? Well, there is not, but I just discovered some indicators, and then coming from audit and inspection side, back then, the most important indicator was to check whether a corporate has been insured or not, or at least whether there is a will or not, whether there is an awareness over it, whether they are conscious, if they are insuring their assets or their collectibles, and if they are paying their premiums without any delays, then that would be a great indicator for us. And we would give that company a credit rating immediately. So it was as simple as that. But lending, borrowing, or the financial structure and the culture of a country, if you were to assess these details, then you would have to check whether some assets are insured or not, because that's an important indicator. And the point that I'm trying to get here is that in this respect, together with the banking union, we are carrying out an important work, and we're trying to accelerate our efforts in this domain. We've been in contact for years now to establish this initiative. And I'd like to pay my respect to all the pensioners, because this needs continuity. Just like Mr. Yavuz said, all efforts are to become sustainable. So insurances work on a scoring basis. And we realized that this is a great indicator. So now we will first come up with insurance scores, both for individuals and for corporates. And then these scores can be utilized. And when it comes to the development of financial insurances, well, you have to check all the assets and the collectibles, and we demand some certain data from players. And if we can merge, if we can bring two roles together as insurance and banking businesses, then that would be a great step. Well, yes, like I said, insurance is important to reflect the reliability and the sustainability of a corporate. So that's a great indicator, I believe. Well, thank you. Well, scoring is carried out through digital tools, I suppose. And at this point, I'd like to continue with Mr. Yilmaz. When it comes to digitalization, what are the best practices of Anadolu Hayat Emeklilik? Well, we have a lot of examples, actually, but let me tell you one important thing. Of course, insurance is great. And of course, private pension fund is a great initiative, but you have to be careful with that. Sometimes because of political or economic reasons, levels may fluctuate. Sometimes domestic or external factors significantly affect the market. So if you want to make the most out of your investments, you need to have a diverse portfolio. But looking at the sector figures, all those enrolled in pension funds don't really change their portfolio composition. Only 6.5% go for a change just for a single time. Remember a couple of years ago, shares were quite volatile. Currency markets were quite volatile. Gold and in general, commodity prices were quite volatile. So all those enrolled people were expected to change the composition of their portfolio, but that did not happen. So this shows us that there is a need. And in 2019, we went for a Phomotic Robo application. And at first, we go for investment characteristics test. We have quite fun questions to determine it. And we try to understand the profile of an investor. So we want to see what the investment appetite would be. Then we receive an authority to automatically change the fund composition. As you know, in PPFs, well, PPFs are managed by portfolio management companies. So we decided to establish the same thing. But in order for you to change your composition, you have to be financially literate. You have to have enough time to follow all the recent developments in the markets, but also you have to have the will to change your composition on a timely fashion. If you feel worried over changing a composition, but then the picture will change completely, then of course this might bring anxiety. But when you authorize us to change your composition, then Phomotic Robo starts to manage your portfolio. This is end-to-end digitalized. It's user-friendly. You don't have to spend too much time on it. And the AI in the background follows all the market expectations, and the application tries to change the composition in a timely fashion. And Phomotic Robo funds and the yield is 280 basis points higher than the average, and performance is quite great. And looking at the attention side of things, it has been 2 years since we launched this application, and the number has surpassed 55,000 users, and the font size grew significantly. So this is our best practice example, the FOMO application. But of course, such initiatives are on the rise. Looking at the US or developed countries in general, or like Asian countries, allow robots to manage funds, and this becomes popular. And the same thing applies to our country too. Be the PPFs or other funds, we expect a dissemination on robotic use. Okay, thank you so much. We are out of time, but briefly, I want to leave the floor to Mr. Özgür and Birant to get your last messages. Well, if you want insurance business to survive, then all players have to be quite strong, because you have to embrace the uncertainty of the future, and you have to be vigilant. Be the life or non-life insurance business. Of course, there are many uncertainties lying in the future, so you have to act accordingly, and you need to have a strong capital and reserves. Because looking at the international and local practices, we see that there's this long tail insurances with 2 to 3 or 4 to 5 year maturities, and this brings about great expenses. So I believe that 3 things are important here. First is that corporates require a great and sound capital management, and we can do that momentarily now. And our reserves need to fit our portfolio. And our portfolio mix should be sustainable in the future. So inter-branch balance is essential here. And finally, well, insurance business, well, in terms of legislation will get to a great position thanks to all the initiatives. There are a lot of steps to take. And as a corporate, we are ready to increase the penetration. We are quite active in this area and will in this area. And when it comes to future risks, well, we don't want to leave the risks to individuals or the government. So there is a lot to do, but our position is quite promising. And Mr. Yavuz, your last remarks, please. Well, let me continue where Mr. Özgür left, and let me share you some figures. As long as insurance business is profitable, then it can be sustainable and it can make its financing means sustainable. For example, when it comes to RRRs, the reserve requirement ratio, I believe we are positively decoupling as the sector itself, and in average, the minimum ratio is around 67%, and it is quite nice. And looking at the reserve side of things, premium production is 19%, and it grew by 24% last year. So capital and the reserve ratios, looking at all the figures, I believe that the sector has a great potential to absorb any threats, and 30% of this capacity will be utilized for future uncertainties, and our works continue in this domain so that insurance business can be resilient, so that the business can be sustainable. Of course, our efforts and steps will bring a great relief to companies too, and soon I believe that there will be a strong and widespread supervision system, which is quite essential for future success. All right, thank you so much. So with this remark, we have reached the end of our panel. We had Chief Editor of Sigorta Dünyası magazine, Birant Yıldız. We had Özgür Obalı from Insurance Association of Turkey.